Key piece of legislation on women's rights is in the hopper at Smith Hill.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Thanks very much for tuning in. It's great to have you. If you're thinking, geez, I thought Dan wore that same sweater last week. We're taping 2 shows on Thursday, March 9th, a little vacation time. So you're seeing this the following week on Friday on Fox and Sunday on WPRI. And I'm guessing, although with my luck it always changes, something will happen in the General Assembly that will dramatically change the subject matter of whatever I've discussed a week before, but it doesn't seem, based on the path that this legislation is on, that we'll have any floor vote by the time that we are talking tonight. So I think everything will work out on a timely basis. It's great to have you aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in tonight. We are talking tonight about the EACA, which is something that is, it's kind of an addendum to the bigger Roe v. Wade challenge that America has here today. And look, I will tell you that this conversation is not an easy one for me, someone who's been brought up in a pro-life environment my entire life, and it feels that way. Yet there's a modernity, if you will, to the issues today that I think needs a disposition where we have to cross over and think and walk in other people's shoes, something that we don't do on anything anymore anyway. And so I've got questions on this particular broad issue, but this specific piece of legislation seems to me kind of like a no-brainer. No, that's not the issue that we're talking about here. We'll pull that down. Let me just run this package, and I think you'll be updated, and then my guest and I will talk all about it.
A packed hearing room Monday afternoon as advocates in the opposition of the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act testified before the House Judiciary Committee. A bill that would allow Medicaid recipients and state employees to receive insurance coverage for abortions. Anti-abortion groups saying the bill is a moral test for Rhode Island and we should give mothers resources.
By providing the necessities to sustain life: housing, nutrition, clothing, education, unemployment, prenatal care, and child care.
With those in favor of the EACA saying the bill would address an equity issue within the state's health care system.
By not passing this legislation, we are saying that people in Rhode Island have a right to reproductive care and privacy only if they can afford to pay for it. No patient that is insured should have to rely on a GoFundMe or scrounging up dollars in order to get a medical procedure done.
Governor Dan McKee said in a statement he supports the EACA and said the bill, quote, removes this inequitable barrier and provides access to reproductive health care for Medicaid recipients and state employees. The bill was reintroduced early this year after it died in committee in both the House and Senate in the last legislative session. Majority Whip Kazarian saying they are not questioning the legality of abortions in Rhode Island, which were codified into state law in 2019.
This bill is about ending a discriminatory practice that...
Yeah, so Jocelyn Foye is the executive director of the Womxn Project, which is spelled WOMXN, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I remember talking about it with either you or somebody, and I don't understand why that is, but you'll explain that to me. Welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Let me simplify this. Abortion is still very legal in Rhode Island, but there's a carve-out for 2 sectors of the population. 1, state employees, and 2, Medicaid recipients, for the health coverage to provide it.
Correct.
It's a really very simple controversy. I had you on the radio earlier last week. Again, we're taping a couple Thursdays ago. And asked you the question, do you know what the historic nature of this General Assembly mindset to make this carve-out has been? Have you had a chance to take a look at that? When for decades, we have had this bill.
Right.
And it seems to me, without going to the specific year, that the General Assembly was making a moral statement that taxpayer money should not be spent for its employees or its direct recipients of aid. That's the best I can figure.
Right, so in 1982...
Welcome, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes. So, right, 1982, there was a change made in the health insurance program that took it out for state workers.
Oh, so it is 1982.
Yes, it is 1982.
Okay,
Yes.
I've been waiting to
Yeah.
been trying to figure out when did this whole thing coalesce. I mean, 1974, Roe v. Wade.
Right.
So 8 years later,
Right.
carve out for health coverage. Was there a new rethink about health coverage in general for reproductive rights, and the carve out was made at that point?
So federally, the Hyde Amendment was introduced a couple years after Roe v. Wade happened, right? And
which means that no federal money could
Correct.
be used to take care of somebody who wanted to have an abortion.
Correct. And that carried over into all the different states. So then states decided if they were going to follow that at the state level or not. Rhode Island went along with that.
Got it.
It's for Medicaid recipients, for state workers.
Okay.
Right.
So Medicaid being a federally funded program, there you go. But you know what? Other states go in a different direction. Oftentimes when there's a federal mandate that goes along with federal funding for something that states have to execute, namely, say, the Medicaid program,
Right.
many states just say, okay, well, if you won't fund it, we will.
Right.
So that's kind of what's on the table here, it seems to me, in part, the financial part of this. There's the philosophy,
Right.
and then there's the finance.
Right. Correct.
The finance will follow the philosophy.
Correct.
I don't think the argument has been we can't afford it.
Yes.
Meaning,
So-
yes, that has not been the
It
argument.
has not been the argument.
The
So,
philosophy has been the argument.
Correct.
Okay. Crystallize the philosophy that as you understand it.
So the philosophy has been the moral question of whether or not a state should be the ones to decide whether or not folks should have this service provided in their health care package. And certain arguments have been made that this particular piece of medical procedure is not appropriate, and others have. And so the fight that we're currently in to fight to have this included as a part of the Medicaid insurance package is the claim that we see it as any other medical procedure. We see it as the individual's right to choose what is best for them and their family and the dignity of how they want to have a family, rather than the government saying you can or you can't have, like you have to have the child.
Here's the weird thing about it. If you're a city employee
Mm-hmm.
and you have health coverage, you'll be covered.
There are two different types of state worker coverages, and cities included in that, and I don't know which one the city is specifically, but one of them covers it and one of them doesn't. And so it depends on which state insurance plan you have.
Here's the challenge, I think, that a lot of us have. If you want to argue on the fundamental Roe v. Wade-ish
Mm-hmm.
thing about the legitimacy and legality of abortion, fine. What's happening in America today, and which really irks me, is that no matter where you happen to be in the country, depending on what exit you pull off the highway, you're in a state that will or won't
It's brutal.
allow for a legal abortion.
Right.
I mean, there are women who are now locked into situations. You can put that Texas thing up now, Maddie. That would be great. So this headline, this one blew me away last week. Texas women, these women who sued Texas, and Texas just put in a new, very restrictive abortion law, actually had abortions unintended. They were the result of serious medical problems. One
Right.
woman's water broke at 19 weeks.
It's horrific.
And her doctors say we cannot terminate the pregnancy, which has 0.34% chance of surviving.
But the mother's life was also in concern as well.
But it wasn't until she was in grave danger in her personal life that the doctor said, okay, now, so they have to claim that the woman is in serious danger of fatality
Yeah.
in order to be able to do that.
Right.
And I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And this particular case, I think, stands off and is one-off weirdness and inconsistency, and that is, you know, any privately employed woman who has health insurance can get reproductive health care
Yeah.
or an abortion. But if you work for the state, you can't.
It's like, yeah.
If you're on Medicaid, you can't. And so what's the answer? Bad luck? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think it doesn't sound like you then don't want to work for the city or the state, and you don't. I mean, so we're looking for a bill that's basically going to the fundamentals of fairness. We're looking for humanity. We're looking for dignity for people. And honestly, this bill is not about abortion per se. This bill is about financial inclusion. This is about insurance. We passed the abortion law in 2019 with the Reproductive Privacy Act. That was a big fight here in Rhode Island, and before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And so we protected the right. But the question becomes, who has that right?
It's actually funny. There are a lot of folks who say, we don't need this extra protection. Roe v. Wade's never going to get overturned.
That's what was said on the floor consistently.
And it happened.
Right.
And of course, it's its own constitutional culture shock, and the repercussions are still yet to be fully understood as this country is now divided.
Right.
Look, if I was a legislator, I'm going to say this right here and now, I'd vote yes on this. I have pro-life arguments, but I can't say that this woman can have one insurance pay and this woman can't. Well, I can't see the practicality in that.
And aren't the basic tenets in the religious sector that you do unto others as you wish they would do to you? I mean, this is fundamentally a stroke of inclusion and kindness to our neighbors, those who are vulnerable and those who are working for us. I mean, it is a basic need. It's a basic thing that Rhode Island actually has the opportunity to be a hopeful tone for the United States, because we are struggling so much across this country. As you said, the sort of patchwork of where you go is dependent on what kind of rights you, as a person who has a uterus, how you're going to be treated.
All right, we'll talk more about what the Womxn Project does at all. Stay with us. Watch Jocelyn. You are in Providence Monthly, somebody that is somebody to watch. I guess because of your now full-time role with the Womxn Project, what's the X all about, by the way?
The X is to signify inclusion of folks who may not have been born traditionally a woman, or people who identify as that or are non-binary but want to be a part of a movement. Our movement, the movement of change and inclusion.
Yeah. No, it's like, look, I'm not old school to the point where I go, that's crazy, blah, 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 but we have the Latinx thing is coming under a lot of scrutiny, and there's a lot of pullback from it now.
There is.
So is there a disassociation, you think, between the two arguments? Woman with an X replacing A, and Latinx, which is actually in the Latino community actually having its own internal turbulence and pushback.
I would argue language is failing us right now in this particular instance, because it's very difficult to figure out a way to talk about how do you say this is a movement that's inclusive, that's about reproductive health and inclusion, and signifying that while also like not having the right words, because we are such an awesome spectrum of diversity when it comes to gender. And so that is something that we as an organization regularly question, how we want to modify our name to be more inclusive, and that changes depending on who's on our board of directors. That change, like it's always a conversation.
So it's a fluid conversation.
It is a very fluid conversation.
How big is the organization now?
We have a board of directors that's 13 people. And we have a volunteer pool of around 800 people. We have a mailing list of like 6,500 people. So, and that spans beyond Rhode Island's
Are there
borders.
meetings and conventions and like association?
Nope, we are
type
our
of
own
thing?
entity. We're a state-based organization that does things with a lot of other organizations nationally. But we created ourselves out of scratch. We've been only with full-time staff for 9 months, and we're.
Well, what I'm saying is, are there hundreds or thousands of women in the state that would call themselves members of the Womxn Project?
Membership, I don't know if we don't have a member, like we don't want to make people pay to be identified with us, but whenever they're involved, we're always like, you're a part of the Womxn Project. So we'll hear people and they'll say, oh, I do stuff with the Womxn Project. It's like, well, you're a part of it.
I see.
It's a little fluid. It's just trying to
Funded
be
how?
funded by donors and grants.
From state?
So
From the state?
we have a range of private donors. So we exist in two planes. We have an art and ed group, which is the C3, and we have a C4 that does direct action and policy work. I act as a lobbyist as well. And so you have to do things differently depending on the government. So we get a lot of creative grants because of the art and activism work that we're doing that intersects with the conversations that we're having around policy change.
I'm fascinated by branding, and I think what's interesting is, so you say Womxn Project, but you spell it with the X, and so I'd say there's a kind of a subtlety to, well, no, there's a subtlety, I think, to the message that you're saying.
Yeah, it's tricky.
That's probably what your debate is.
It
right?
is,
That the
and
X is subtle. You don't say Womxn.
Right.
You're not getting the X. I wouldn't even know how you get the X into the pronunciation.
Right.
So you're not being overt. You're sending
It's a signal
a
to
second
certain
message.
folks. Yeah.
That if I wanted to get on board with your issues, I would feel more comfortable because of the spelling.
There are men that'll say, it's a woman's space. And we're like, nope, it's not just a woman's space. And to certain people, they see the X and they're like, okay, it's a little different, so I can get more involved. It's I like you're saying, it's a fluid thing. We're getting to a point where we just need to reevaluate depending on what the language is at the time. And it's important to be on top of that.
But basically, it's a concept of inclusion.
Very much so.
Okay, when we come back, what are the key issues the Womxn Project has on its agenda? Stay with us. Right. Yeah, for all of us. So the Womxn Project, in addition to, by the way, this bill, we kind of left it in agreement on the abortion, the EACA, the Equal Access to Coverage Act. Is that what it is?
The Equality in Abortion Coverage Act.
Yeah, EACA, that's the acronym, to be able to allow public employees and Medicaid recipients to have their insurance covered. The travel of that bill, we taped this a week and a half ago from people seeing it, but you don't expect it to be on the floor immediately, but you're hoping for it to be on the floor this session, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a lot of hope. I mean, it's a bill that's kind of an interesting thing. It's in the budget. The governor put it in the budget, right? So you have the budget piece, and then you also have the standalone bill. And what it means is that if it's included in the budget every year, they're going to have to keep revisiting as a line item. And so he put it in the budget, it has to be voted on. So that has its own life in both the House and Senate.
Well, the governor doing that sends a signal to the legislature that one argument about, oh, we can't afford it, comes off the table.
Right. They've done the math. It's really incredibly
I think the Speaker of
lift.
the House supports it. I think the Senate President is likely to be pulled and tugged, or at least facilitate a vote, while he may not cast his own individual vote for it. I'm not sure. Is that your read?
I can't totally say yet. I think that there's a lot at play. We often are told that this issue is like the chess piece that's constantly played against at every meeting for every other bill that's being discussed, like who gets to do what and how they're doing it.
There's a lot of chess that's played every legislative session.
Yeah.
Why do you think this issue is trading currency? I think what you're telling me, I mean,
it's absolutely trading currency. Why?
Why?
I mean, we're the most Catholic state in the nation, right? We're only a population of 1.2 million folks. we span so many different types of socioeconomic areas, and so there's such a range of who we are in the state. People often say we're a blue state. We're totally a purple state when it comes to how our legislature votes.
So you're finding internally on the floor in hearings, you're finding people who are still articulating I just can't get there from here type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's kind of where I understand that, but look,
But it's a majority on the floor. Let's say that, right? So on both the floor and the Senate, there's a majority vote for this. So it has to get out of committee into the floor.
Which
and then
is
we're
an
good.
interesting discussion, not just about your issue itself, but between the eye of the needle dynamic of the legislature in and of itself, which means that there may be consensus for, making, we just did Girl Scout cookies last week, making Girl Scout cookies the national cookie, but the speaker doesn't like it,
right.
Or the Senate president doesn't like it. So
Right.
it's like getting it through there, and all of a sudden then the floor is a no-brainer.
Right.
Right.
And that's exactly
So that's
what
how you
this
feel
is.
this particular bill
Right,
sits.
and I'll just go back to the standalone bill is so important because you don't want to be fighting for this every year. You don't want this as a budget item every year, right? So you want to have it codified and secured for the folks who need it.
Listen, there are a lot of bills that take a long time that once they're passed, for a lot of people, it seem to make sense. I only have about a minute here. Any other checklist of things we ought to be looking at that you guys have in your agenda?
We're currently doing some work that's extending greater voter access in our state, which is a really important piece to the type of work we're doing over for repro rights, because it's about who was elected in and how many people's voices are being heard. We're also starting to gear up for the fight for trans folks to have the protections in our state borders and not be attacked if they come from out of state in. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of movement and parts at play. Well, I'll leave it there.
It's a tough world and everyone getting along right now.
I wish there was greater kindness.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just want to peacefully say I agree.
Yeah.
We're all having a lot of this whole gender thing. We'll come back on it someday. It's hard for people. It's a lot of traditionalist thinking, and I'm not minimizing it. It's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard, but appreciate your access to the show, and we'll see how that bill goes. We'll
Thank
stay
you
in
so
touch.
much for having us.
You bet. All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back. Final word. So listen, we all struggle with this abortion issue, and don't think that I'm just going, it's a question of firming up the arguments and making at least everything consistent from one state to the next and intra each state. We'll talk to you on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI. See you.